All right, getting set up here. Coach Rick's about to come on. Just waiting for his invite to pop up. How we doing? Happy holidays. Let's wait and see. I accepted the.
What
There we
up?
go.
I'm here.
You there, dude? Real weird, bro.
I
Wouldn't let
think
me
that
do it from my iPad.
they have
Like,
stipulations in place. You got to do it from the phone. I don't know.
oh no shit.
I'm
Yeah,
just
I
guessing.
didn't know that. Weird.
I'm hoping the connection's solid up here, Gary, but if things go south, we might be listening to my daughter scream downstairs. So Lenny's birthday's on
That's
Christmas,
all right.
so we're doing a get together tonight at the house. You know what I mean, for both sides. So it's kind of like,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I
hmm
got Kayla's on the 26th,
okay,
and then Emma's today. So we got, yeah, it's crazy. I
shout
get
out.
it. They get, and they don't really get
No,
robbed for Christmas. You know, they also get their birthday,
I
and
think it's a
and
good
and so
deal. They get a
just
double down.
everything it hits
Yeah.
at one time. No, hits the pocket at one time. But yeah, all right. Looks
Yep.
like we got a few on here. So, um, yeah, kind of wanted to just get back on here and get this thing cranked up every week. Every Friday at noon, we're gonna be doing this live, and then, um, you know, um, kind
hmm
of make it a regular thing. Talk about everything GOATA, and then we kind of get into the products a little bit later. But the big thing that we had talked about was kind of
hmm
getting away from support with a lot of the exercises, and I had been using that, trying to get them off the wall as much as possible. We had the
Right.
conversation a while
Right.
back about the wall, and kind of started testing that. The training starting to pick back up over here. So kind of just, if you want to give them
Yeah.
a little information on that, and it's real. Like it's a big time difference. And it takes away that mental
Yes.
reliance to where, then once you go from the hands to the fingertips, whether it's the
hmm
wall, facing the wall, butt on the wall, or like in the bolt or something like that, it just becomes
Yeah.
a
I,
way different load
well, the thing that we always
of
talked
pressure.
about with the coaches, even dating back to 2019, we had an early video in the modules before we transferred over to the Institute, and it's still there. And the name of that video is Where is the Pressure? Remember, like, where is the pressure? Because you go back to the base of this thing, each system's moving something, right? Cardiovascular is moving blood, pulmonary is moving air, digestive is moving food. We've talked about this as part of our intro. Well, what's the musculoskeletal moving? It's moving pressure. Well, you can't see or touch that pressure until you really go frame by frame, and then you can start to digest and dissect and see, all right, the musculoskeletal system, how is it reacting to that pressure going into it? Is it loading into a bow? Is it going into a reverse bow? What does it look like? What we can discern information from that point, but we need the slow motion evidence first. So that was always an overarching goal for coaches and for clients to understand, which is where is the pressure, and then am I putting that pressure into a decompressed structure? And a decompressed structure is linked to foot control, compression control, which is the tail to crown relationship, and then head control, tracking system, right? Where is it in relation to the columns? Is it in the column? Am I loading one column? Or is it in the middle because I'm going 50-50? That then takes you into the template, the recoding template that everybody's pivot points to the holy grail, which is one pivot point. And we want to go sort of in succession. We want to go in that way, going 6 pivot points to then 4 pivot points to then 2 with support. So that'd be like your bolt iso hold, your bow wall sit. Then I go 2 without support. There's your
Yeah.
chuck squat, your chuck hinge, your access squat, your access hinge, your standing flow. Then I go to 1 with support. That'd be my elevated drop in. Anything where I just have one, piece of contact with something, whether it's a stick, a bar, a wall, whatever it may be, I'm going to use that little bit of support, but I'm trying to get everything into one column. And then the holy grail would be one pivot point with no support around it. So now you've got to get to one pivot point with no support around you, or very little support around you, essentially saying you've got 98, 95% of the pressure in one column and 2 to 5% of the pressure in the other column. And that's going to be the true moment that you're actually coding for what would be really even the walk, but jog, run, sprint, cut, juke, jump, throw, and swing. There's going to be this moment where you're going to dump 100% of the pressure into one column. You need to be able to load and control that pressure in that column so that you can then transfer with the cornering out of that column and then catch it over on the other side. So what we had noticed was a lot of people, when hovering around the 2 pivot point with support sort of area of the system, or the 1 pivot point with support area of the system, they would be just leaning on the support. And so if the pressure is in the support structure, well, then guess what? It's not in your foot and ankle. It's not in your hip. And then they would go to, reassess or self-assess where they are in the system, and they would see the run, and it's still that collapsing foot. Well, it's like, well, yeah, think about it. You haven't actually taken your system to the point as close as it can get to that act of a forward sprint, a cut, a juke, a jump, a throw, a swing, what it's actually going to look like when we get down to the pitch, to the field, to the court, whatever it may be. So you're trying to work 6 to 1. Doesn't mean you'll abandon 6 or abandon 4. It just means you'll start to mix in the other areas of the system. So you'll mix in the 2 with support after you've sort of checked off that box of 4. You've checked off that box of 6. Then 6 and 4 kind of become your warm-up. And then you spend more time on 2 with support. And then you move up to 2 without support. And then you kind of spend more time on 2 without support than 2 with support. And you kind of see how that's the general flow that you want to get into. Now, when you truly get to 1 pivot point without support, you're not moving much. It's essentially going to be an isometric. And it's going to be an isometric for a really long time until you can start to be like, okay, I can feel how I can hold this. I saw my guy, Teacher Man, jump on, Coach Schneck, Richard Schneck. He's big on, he teaches GOATA. You load up to 1 column. It's a one-side move. But that's the idea. It's like just getting to a point where you can hold that. You can control that, because that's what you're looking for, guys. Like, you want the control back. That's where the strength is. That's where the speed is. That's where the creativity and where you can start to curate on the court or on the field. So we have been spending more time, and Gary will touch on it, but getting those athletes to challenge that 1 pivot point with support, because I'll finish with this. The thing that we saw a lot, or what we're still seeing on Instagram, is people that they think they are training 1 pivot point. But in reality, when you look, they're training 2 pivot points, working 50% of the pressure in each column. They're never really even getting 60, let alone 70, 80, 90% of the pressure into 1 column. And that's why they're not able to code up.
Yeah. And I think to kind of like let people know, like, conceptually, where we always go back to saying, it's an observation-based system and things like that. Like, the levels of support and all of that stuff, if you go back and you kind of go back through that natural strengthening process, you take the baby's crawl pattern, it's 6 levels of support. You got both feet, the knees, the hands. So it's not like we made this stuff up. Like, it's kind of what we was able to identify in the crawl. And then if you watch, anybody that's had kids, and fortunately I had 2 through the process, and you just had,
it's going to be 4.
You got another one. But you kind of, the baby goes to the wall or it goes to a chair, and it starts to pull itself up, and it goes to like 4 points of support, and it really just starts to let go, and it's kind of wobbly, and it's moving a certain way, but it starts to develop that strength through not being supported, and it's got its battles, it falls down, and that's why it was so important. Like, when I started going back out onto the turf and trying to get them really to get away from the wall quicker. Like, where even the whiteboard routines now, like we talked about, next month, we're going to reshoot like phases of the whiteboard. Like, it's not going to be the first level is going to be supported. Start to pull some of that support out, and then that 3rd or 4th round, there'll be no support. like on that whiteboard routine. So we making sure that we're not just prepping the system, that we actually going to get some coding up done while we're doing the whiteboard routine, and kind of take away that
I mean, absolutely. The
reliance, you know.
whiteboard routine, and what we mean by that, anybody that's listening, we have literally a whiteboard in the GOATA gym, and it's for, you know, lack of a better word, just a warm up. But it's something that the athletes are going to run through right when they get there, before Gary gets out, before we even start the warm up, the actual warm up into the circuit. The athletes are going to run through this, you know, a couple times, and it's going to be a one size fits all. You know, we're going to take them. You're going to have a mixture of 6 to 1, and take people through the variety of different foot behaviors, or should I say, foot positions, foot cues that you may run into inside of training. And I think that's the next thing I wanted to segue into, because I was just thinking about it. But I have a new video that we're going to shoot for the Institute for the coaches, and I think I'm going to put it into Recode 225 in the app as well, because I think it's important to have something simple, have some imagery that you can work off of, and compartmentalize this, because I think GOATA starts to expand in your mind really quickly, and it's hard to kind of grab onto the ends of what really is needed to get the end result, which is, I want to turn on the tape and I want to see GOATA status, right? I want to wake up, I want to put my feet on the ground, and I want to feel GOATA status, right? There's all this, you know, you can sit there and pinky in the air and just talk theoretics, the theoretical surrounding it forever, but you need something that's actionable, that's simple. So in essence, there's really 3 different types of foot positions that you'll really need in your day-to-day and in your coding. So the first one's going to pertain to your standing, your walking, and your access squat and your access hinge. So access squat, access hinge would be essentially your resting squat, and for lack of a better term, your resting hinge, right? Just being able to, remember, you are a hunter-gatherer, you are the apex predator, you're built to be out in the wild and to have a lot of interaction with the ground. So getting the butt down to the ground and being able to work with the hands, or just reaching the hands forward and getting the head near the ground, was essential. So those are the bows and the corners in the system. The bow is the squat, the corner is the hinge. So you have an access squat. We want to be able to, as we would say, flexibility can fool you. I want to have inside ankle bone high suppleness. So I want to be able to squat inner ankle bone high, feet close, feet straight. I want to be able to hinge inner ankle bone high, feet close, feet straight. So when you're in those standing, walking, access squat, access hinge positions, you want to have what we would call eggshell heels. So eggshell heels is simply feet close, feet straight, no more than a fist width distance apart, and then an eggshell heel. And so we used to tell people outside edge, outside edge. What started to happen was people literally went into a supination. They went into an abduction, if you will, of the foot, and they just got to the outer edge of the 5th metatarsal, and they actually picked up the inside corner of that half dome arch structure, which is a crucial corner. The big toe should be strong. It should just be strong in an inner ankle bone high. It's not, you're not toeing off, you're not pressing down on that corner. You're just kind of creating a little, you know, a connection there. And so what we've started to say is balls of the feet, which is more realistic to what it really is. It is the balls of the foot with the inner ankle bone slightly higher than the outer ankle bone. But eggshell heel alignment, I want you to think of it as, I could slide a piece of filler paper or a credit card underneath my heel, between my heel and the floor. So your heel will be very close to the floor in standing, in walking, in access squat, in access hinge. But the difference is you're not loading that heel. It's sitting there and it's in a hover type status where now you got the weight really in the meat of the foot, the prime rib. You've got it in the cuboid all the way forward, all the way around to the big toe, essentially. And that whole structure of the foot is shaping up into one structure, one shape, all of it cohesive to be a half dome arch structure that is inside ankle bone high. So you could look at eggshell heels as inner ankle bone high 1. We've just, the light dimmer analogy, right? I turn the light on, the light is on, it's not off, inner ankle bone low, the light is on, but there's not that much pressure, there's not that much force in the system, right? I'm just standing. I'm just standing still. I'm just organizing my pressure. I haven't even moved yet. As I go to move and I go to jog, run, cut, juke, jump, throw, swing, the pressure is it's going to be louder. It's going to be more. So I'll need more inside ankle bone high. That brings us to the next foot position that you'll need. And this is where you'll train the majority of the time at GOATA, you're going to be in what we would call the balls of the feet, right? You're going to be inner ankle bone high to a 10. So now you want to actually lift your inner ankle bone and your heel as high as you can. It will be around high heel shoe height alignment. So to picture that, like if you were to have a high heel shoe on, the chuck does this for free in a sense, because you hover the chuck and it lifts your heel to this high heel height shoe alignment. And then the crucial point is that you have to have the inner corner of the foot, which will be the big toe knuckle, okay? Like this part of the big toe essentially, right? That'd be your toe, then there's that big toe knuckle. You can't let that pop up off the ground. So you got to keep the big toe knuckle down as you drive the inner ankle bone high, as you can, right? At wherever you are, once you see that big toe knuckle start to pop up, you got to regress a little bit and find it again. Then you'll notice, like, man, I'm in the ball of the foot. I have an unlocked ankle gyro that can really oscillate. And if you're inside ankle bone high, it's only got one path to go. It's only going to go bow to corner. Okay, so inner ankle bone low is going to feed it reverse bow to reverse corner. You'll drop in and then you'll swoop out, up and around. If you are inner ankle bone high, you'll drop down, back and out, and then you'll swoop up, around, and in. That's why people are just pointing their knees out, pointing their chest out, and they think they're doing GOATA, and the foot is just it's dead.
Yeah.
Like RJ talked about, they have dead feet because they're not actually. Then the thing is, you got to be able to put 100% of the pressure into that ball of the foot structure, that inner ankle bone high 10 structure, that high heel shoe height structure. So you need to get the pressure out of the other foot. And this brings me to the third thing that you'll need to be able to create in GOATA. This is going to pertain to when now you're in a unilateral setting. So you're loading one side of the body, right? So the balls of the feet would be like a bow wall sit. It would be your bolt hold. It would be your chuck squat to hinge. The eggshell heels would be all your standing throughout the day, all your walking throughout the day, your access squat and your access hinge. Now, what about when I need to get all the pressure into one side of the body? Okay, you're going to need to create what we call tippy toe alignment with the other foot. So you're essentially going to literally try to get near the tips of the toes. And what you'll notice is when you're doing, let's say, this is what I talk about, a lot of people on Instagram, I'm watching them and they think they're doing one pivot point. They think they're loading this bow on the front leg. They at most maybe have 50% of the pressure on the right side. 50% of the pressure still on the back side. So what I need to do is I need to get tippy toe on the left foot, and that's going to literally funnel the 98 or 95% of the pressure to the ball of the foot here. So I'm still going to be inner ankle bone high back here, but I'm going to be on literally the tips of the toes, the tips of the big toe, the tip of the pinky. And that's going to make sure that I have at least something there. There's 2 to 5% to not fall over, but the 98, the 95% of the pressure is now in the coding column. I'm trying to code up this column right here. So I'm going to make sure. Now, if you've got those 3 foot positions locked in, eggshell heels, balls of the feet to a 10, inside ankle bone high, and then you have tippy toe alignment with the reset leg, because that's what it is. It's a reset leg. It's the same thing that's taking place. Like when I can use that same cue for a plethora of sports. Okay, so when I'm coaching my quarterbacks, I use it that way. I say, give me the tippy toes of their front foot. So they'll be holding the football right here, ball of the foot. I'm hitting their back heel, get it up, chuck height, and then I'm getting them out of their front leg, tippy toe. So each time I'm doing that, I'm only cueing those 2 things. And they're having to reorganize the pressure on their backside. I could put a baseball bat in your hands and I could say the same thing. Give me the tippy toe, and now you're going to have to put all the pressure into your back leg, and then I'm going to mold up that foot. So now they're just sitting, they're just holding all that pressure. It's no different.
I don't know.
You could put it out to the side. You could put it wherever you want, but the pressure is going to be in one column, and then the other column is going to be tippy toe. So use those 3 cues, those 3 foot positions. So that's really all you need to know. You need to know eggshell heels. You need to know inside ankle bone high 10. So eggshell heels, feet close, feet straight, eggshell heels, self-explanatory. Don't put pressure in your heels. You're going to basically do it right if you're just not trying to keep the pressure in your heels and your feet are close and your feet are straight. This line between 2 and 1, between the big toe and the second toe, that line, keep that line straight. Because some people got crooked second toes, so it confuses them. Just use that line.
Yeah. But they get it from, they push it off
it's
the
so
inside
warped.
for
But
so
just
long.
use that line that would be
Start
there.
to duck
And
off,
then
yeah.
the inside ankle bone high 10, keep the big toe knuckle down as you lift the inner ankle and the heel to a high heel height shoe alignment. Be able to hold that with 2 columns. Then you got to be able to hold it with 1 column, and that other foot's going to have to get tippy toe alignment. So you're going to have to get 95 to 98% of the pressure into this column in order to really code up this column. And that's what people are doing wrong, is they're in 2 columns, 50-50, and they think that they're coding 1 column. They think they're coding their bow. And they're not.
And one of the things too that, like, this is a lot. Like if you're sitting here and you're watching this live, it's a lot right now to digest at one time. But when you hire a GOATA coach or you go to Recode 225, these things are in there now. Like, we took Recode 225, we built it bigger and better on a better platform, subscription based. You could go in there and you could get it. And all of this stuff is in there. We have a little education section, commonly made mistakes, stuff like that. So we're starting to add that to Recode 225. You could go to the GOATAmovement.com and buy that. And that way you can watch these videos over and over and kind of make sure that you understand it, and you're not just trying to
and
watch
there's a where to
live
start
and learn
there's another
GOATA.
thing too, Gary. And we're gonna keep expanding. Like, look, we've spent this last year, Gary, RJ, and I, really dialing in the system and really getting it to where it's feasible and it's accessible online, so everybody can tune in and they can go fast, and whatever it is that they need, they can learn. Like the GOATA Institute, for full disclosure and full accountability, the GOATA cert was not organized the way it should have been at the beginning, because we were working through Slack, we were working through Google Docs. It's very difficult just to do what you want to do with GOATA through those platforms. So we needed to work to something that was log in, there's the education modules, they're literally in order, and you watch them in order, and you're going to get the red pill in order, and you're going to get the order of events as you should let them hit your brain, and you're going to be able to sit there and go, oh. And so some coaches miss that early on, but that's why we've created a renewal system to where anybody that has been through GOATA can tap back in as a coach and get into the Institute as long as they're in the app. So, we've taken basically what was the frequently asked questions, the frequently made mistakes, and we've built video around it, just tutorials around it, or things that came up that needed further explaining. Like, hey, we should probably stop saying outside edge. Technically, yes, the weight is more biased towards the outside edge. But from a cueing standpoint, from an understanding standpoint, it's probably not the best cue, because we're seeing poor displays of inner ankle bone high. We're seeing a lot of big toes pop up. I'm like, why are we seeing that? It's like, oh, it makes sense. Their shins and their feet are essentially glued. They got fankles now. The whole population's got these fankles that are glued together. They can't articulate. Their joystick has crazy glue inside of it. Stuff like that starts to pop into our heads. Like, what's a great analogy for the column? Well, it's a joystick. I mean, it's exactly what it is. If you've had a joystick from when you were in the 80s with Atari, or if you've got the new ones, that's what your body is. It's playing off of that joystick template, meaning there's a platform that's not moving. That'd be your foot. Your foot's going to hold the shape. It's going to hold the controller structure. And then the joystick's going to do the movement. Well, the joystick would be the shin compartment, the thigh compartment, the torso, the bicep, the forearm. That's going to pull off the multiplanar wave behavior, that joystick type movement, but you need a strong platform first and foremost, right? If the platform moves, when the joystick moves, there's really no disassociation. If there's no disassociation, not really winding up anything, you're not loading the pressure into the product. So, those types of analogies and stuff, that's what we want to teach off of. Like I always say, bicep bone. Like, yeah, we know it's the humerus, but nobody else does. Nobody really cares. So you got to explain it one step further. So we're always looking to simplify, right? And that's the main goal with GOATA. GOATA is a very simple system. We are here to assess and correct the global laws of GOATA, right? If anybody starts to take you off that path, or get your focus elsewhere and you're trying to be a GOATA, just know that you're going to have a harder time finding that status because you're not directing your focus. You only have so much time in your day towards the main goal. Be able to assess, be able to correct these global laws. You're going to do that by working from 6 pivot points back to 1 and making sure that you fully can control those different spots, 6 to 4 to 2 with support, 2 without support, 1 with support, 1 with no support. You're going to need to be able to do that while you focus on the main thing. Where is the pressure? And am I putting that pressure into a decompressed structure, right? Remember, decompression is not a breath thing. It is not a ribcage pelvis alignment. Decompression is speaking to the state of the whole system, okay? The whole system has a certain amount of space that is needed. At its most, their biggest wave you can create would be a 22.5 back to a 45 based off the kneecap and the chest biomarkers, okay? The tail to crown is going to have to get to almost where it's like a parallel to the floor spine. That's going to be your back chain dominant 10. Like think athletic position. Everybody was taught this in grade school, right? Athletic position. You shoot the tail back, you shoot the crown of the head forward. Picture SEALs, Navy SEALs clearing a room. Picture the Hadza on a hunt. Picture the Karubo on a hunt. They'll be walking upright. Once the shit hits the fan or there's a moment of like it's going to go off, boom, the tail shoots back, the crown of the head shoots forward. So they're in their back chain at maybe a 1, and then where Gary's at right now is take it to a 10, right? There's going to need to be, we're now going to take that pressure that was there when I'm standing and walking, which is very low. Now I need to set that pressure, all of it, and I need to build a ton of it into the system because I'm going to then launch as much pressure as I can get. And I'm going to then be bounding in certain instances. I'm going to be loading even more pressure. I'm going to be in the air and then dropping down and in the air and then dropping down. So the pressure numbers are going to spike. You got to be decompressed for that moment. You can huff and puff all you want. You can tilt and that, and you're never going to get it. You don't breathe into your feet. You don't breathe into your head. It's all nonsense. You have to get back chain dominant and you have to be inner ankle bone high 10, and you got to be able to put all the pressure into one column, and you got to be able to dominate that one column. And nobody's doing that. Everybody's got 2 columns on the ground and they got 50-50 pressure, and they can't understand why they're not coding up the one column that they think they're working on, because you're not actually putting the pressure where it's supposed to be. You're not focusing on the main thing. Where is the pressure, and is it going into a decompressed structure?
And that kind of answers the question somebody asked about, well, don't the heel touch the ground when walking? Yes, it does, but it's not absorbing
I'd say
the pressure.
A kiss of the heel at the most, but you're not loading it. Like that's where, look, when you're walking, when you're jogging, unless you've spent hours on end watching tape, going frame by frame, your brain's not going to catch this thing. You're just not. Like, you're not going to catch it when you're going. You think, I can't say how many people show up and they think they're GOATA. And I go, oh, that's cute. Let me watch your tape. You're the biggest WOATA I've ever seen. You know, you think, and it's fine. Like, it just is what it is. People need to hear this. Like, tough love, but you need to hear it. You're not going heel away. You're not setting a bow. You're not inner ankle bone high. When you've been in it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you think you're feeling these things, feel isn't real. Okay, you need to cross-reference this with slow motion video, which is why we do that. And that's why we spent so much time curating a system and probably spending more time getting rid of. We've added, but we spent more time getting rid of things because they don't fit what the main goal is. You know, you have to ask yourself, well, what is your goal? A lot of people show up and they want to be GOATAs, but their behavior and their day-to-day and what they're doing with their bodies doesn't reflect that at all. You're sitting there doing deadlifts. You're sitting there doing pull-ups. You're holding weight below your belt. You never ever get 60 to 70 to even 80% of the pressure into one column. You're not the main thing, which is assessing and correcting global laws. You're not worried about where is the pressure. You're exercising again. Like, you're back to it. And I'm athlete mindset. We're like, every minute of my day is going towards getting better. And if I find out that something doesn't make me better, I completely abandon it. I don't sit there and fuck around with it. You don't have time to roll around on the ground. Like I used to do that. It doesn't do anything. Like, you'll still sneeze and blow your back out. Like, you need to be inside ankle bone high 10. You need to be back chain dominant 10. You need to be able to pack pressure into a bow. Until you're there, don't focus on anything else. And that's why, you know, we create a template for people. Now they know like what they should be focusing on. So if you're at 2 pivot points with no support, and then you go to 1, and then you go to 1 without support, and you're falling all over the place, you're not going to be able to turn on the tape and see you running inside ankle bone high 10. You're just not. And to kind of further answer that question about the walk, just keep your feelings simple. Like, here's what I'm trying to say is, during the day, you're going to have a lot of time under tension, okay, centered around the way you're standing and the way you're walking. All right. Now, if I give you too many cues to think about, it's going to stunt your brain when it comes to correcting those behaviors. All right. So I want to keep it simple for y'all. And our brain tends to work in threes. And based off of what Gary and I have seen working with hundreds and hundreds of people, the best thing we've been able to get from the walk, as far as like real-time feedback and people starting to look cleaner, has been all the focus at the foot level. Okay, so all the focus at the foot level, and focus on these 3 cues: feet close, feet straight. Gilly had one of Gilly's, I think the first drill of GOATA, you could probably say, was walk the line, because it's what the model is doing. Like, if your feet are close and your feet are straight, you're going to already kind of pop the inner ankle bone high. You should notice it a little bit. Like, you're already going to sort of work towards.
And when he means like, the line, he means a straight line.
Yeah.
Not a straight line. Yeah. Like, not a straight line, meaning that fist distance between the feet at all times.
Now, you'll feel like you're almost walking over yourself, because most people are coming from this. Their feet are wide, their feet are crooked, and they're heavy in the heel. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get them close. I'm going to get them straight. So in between first and second toe, and then just think eggshell heel. So if you've got those 3 things working together, you can do that right now as you're standing. Just focus on those 3 things. It'll feel like a workout.
It'll feel like a workout for some people.
Is that it's something you can snap into quickly. So when you're hanging out, and you could be in conversation, you could be waiting in line at the store, that's a quick mantra to jump into, and you don't got to feel like a weirdo, in a sense, to where you're like, I see people walk and they're like, they're trying to set a 22.5 bow. Bro, you're walking. Like, you maybe need 6 degrees of 22.5 to complete that pressure wave in a way that doesn't look like you're a psychopath walking through target. Like, you only need 6% of it. You got 22.5, and that's why you're like, dude, I'm not going to do this through school. I'm not going to walk around a target like this. So they just they don't do it. When in reality, the wave is so small during the walk that you don't even realize, like, that's what I'm saying, is people feel their heel kiss and they think that their pressure's in the heel. Or people look at a frame of movement and there's frames where you'll see Ed Reed's heel looks like it's down, or you'll see Jordan's heel. That's not where the pressure is. You got to watch the next few frames when the pressure jumps in. My point is that those few frames are milliseconds. You're not calculating that in real time. It's just too much for your brain to handle. These aren't things you should have had to even worry about. They're only things we know now because we have the technology to fuck it up and then figure it out again. That's the things that we do to ourselves, right? Build chairs, 3 decades go by, we go, oh shit, the chair was a bad idea. Hand out cigarettes, 3 decades go by, oh shit. That's, you try to come back, you figure it out with technology that it was a bad idea in the first place. But just use those cues, because it'll be something you can quickly snap into. Walk down a hallway and picture those 3 things going south. Get your feet wide, get your feet crooked, go into your heel. Notice what that feels like. Then get your feet close, get your feet straight, and stay out of your heels, eggshell the heel. Then notice what that feels like. Okay, that's where I want you. Now, the more you're doing that, the more you're cueing that, the more you're making that a behavior, you're going to start to lock it into your subconscious. You're going to start to do this automatically. Ideally, you'd have a recode routine that you were working through in conjunction with working on your 90%, your non-negotiables. You'd have another 10% of time for 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the middle of the day. I'm going to do this concentrated effort towards this behavior. And that's going to start to level you to 4 to 2 with support, 2 without, 1 with support, 1 without. And a lot of people get to 2, they get to the end and they think that they got it because a kneecap points out or a chest points out, upon further review, you're still inside ankle bone low and you can't understand why. Well, you've never stopped to say, where is the pressure? Pressure, another word, could be weight, right? You're just transferring weight. You're transferring pressure. It happens in a wave-like format, like everything else in nature. It waves in, it waves out. When it waves in, the body should deform not being a bad or good thing, just changing shape, changing behavior. It should shape up and it should behave into a bow. And then when the pressure needs to leave that column, it should shape up and it should behave in a cornering action. And that's it. That's it.
And you constantly working on that behavior. So like, going from the 2 to the 1, the 1 points of support, it's important because, the isometric, you're spending time in these positions for the brain to get familiar with it and feel it out. And then that way you could change that WOATA feeling to when you see it in the video, when you're loading and you're transferring pressure the proper way. But if you in a split stance and you think that you training that one pivot point, like you said, and you're never spending time there, when you go to run, it's not going to be there. It can't be because you never reintroduced it to the brain properly. So it's kind of one of them things where, you got this phase where you're trying to get that decompression. You're trying to get the space back. You're trying to get the tail to crown relationship back. And that you had when you was a baby in the crawl pattern, because it's there. All the baby spines are long, their heads are up, tailbones back. It's how they move it through space. When they stand up and they're not sitting and they just dropping into that squat, that tail to crown relationship is still there. It's still there all the time. It's when we start to sit and you go sit down, you put a 2-year-old. Look, Gary started school at 2. They sat him down.
Immediately.
The decode immediately starts. I was fortunate enough with him. I knew not to put him in the little jumpy things and stuff like that. But what I was saying is you got to spend time in these positions the right way. It needs to be tracked through your recode. Your coaches should be, when you go, you hire a GOATA coach. They got to put you in the app. Your regiment's got to be in the app. The app holds education to get you to understand why you're doing the things you're doing. When there's not too many systems that you walk into that says, okay, this is an ideal movement pattern. This is who you are. This is the regiments that's going to take you to that point. And then every month or 2 months, if you reevaluate, you start that process over. Wherever the body's compressed should show up in the video. Then you redo the regimen and you work all the way until that point, until your coach could either turn you over to a recode 225, or the beautiful part about GOATA, which is different than every other system, is if you own the walk and you own the run, you really don't need us no more. You should be able to go out into the world and you could pull sleds, and there's a whole lot of performance stuff that you could do where you still honor that. You're not swinging the hips forward and all of that stuff. But you got to spend time. You got to spend time in these positions. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to recode your body in 2 weeks or a month with a 1 month plan or something like that.
Yeah, you got to give yourself.
It's just not gonna happen.
First you got to give yourself time to wrap your head around the concepts. And to quiet the noise. Like I said, there's a lot of, bad information that's out there. I would say, once again, to keep it simple in your mind, you want to assess and correct global laws. So keep your focus there, keep your focus on the main thing, and then use that template of 6 to 1 so that you can kind of track where you are in your recode. You can start to, that's the point of recode 225, is a do-it-yourself recode. Now, you'll never replace the intimacy of seeing yourself in slow motion as a coach that understands what's going on, speaks it to you, right? That is like, you'll get so many more moments. And that's why we want you to use a GOATA coach. Like, that's the whole point, is go find a GOATA coach that's going to put you in the app, and they're going to take you through the assessment, and they're going to show you the storyboard, and they're going to give you the full, what you came for. You came for GOATA. And then you want to work from 6 to 1, and you want to make sure that you're focusing on where is the pressure. Now, that allows us to spend more time in the arena of play. And I think that's a big thing that should be talked about, is that people's goals, we talked about a little bit earlier, but people's goals generally, and what I tend to see, they don't match what I feel like they're doing on a day-to-day. Like their goals are these other things that they maybe talk about, but then the actions that they put out in the day don't go back to that goal, right? Like we've now created a world where the athletes are like brainwashed into thinking that the training is the sport. Like that's not it. Like the training is just there to get me ready from an endurance standpoint. Like that's what training was always like for us sort of growing up. Like, oh, it's time to train. Like basically it's time to get your wind up. Time to run some sprints so you can handle 4 quarters. But the whole goal is to play. Like, because that's the reality. Whatever it is that you do, you could be a rock climber, you could be in jiu-jitsu, you could be playing baseball, you could be playing football, basketball, whatever that thing is that makes you tick, you've got to be doing that thing to get better at it.
You take two running backs. They split in time, right? You go on the field and they both hold their own. They might each one might have a little better blocking or something like that, but they both relevant, right? They both good. Then you go into the weight room. One of them squats 250, the other one squats 500. But they're the same on the field. They're the same guy basically on the field. That squat, getting him up to 250, is not going to make him a better running back. It's probably going to only increase the chance of injury. So it's like you said, it's got to match the task, right? If I want to be a great pitcher and I'm deadlifting, but I got pre-cornered shoulders because I've been deadlifting,
I had a guy,
then I'm going to have an elbow problem.
I used to throw with right? Tight end. And I mean, this dude could squat. Like he was like a 600-pound squat guy. Like he could just rip weight. Like he was insane. He was insanely strong. He was just built that way. But he struggled getting out of a stick route. Stick route being like a 5-yard out, like the basic of the offense. Like I need it. Like I gotta have it. Like 3rd and 6, I gotta have it. Like, you gotta be good. And I'm like, he's like, man, he's like, he's putting up these monster numbers. And then we're going to run stick nods, and we're going to run sticks, and we're going to run flats, and we're going to run basics. And he's like, I'm struggling getting in and out of my cut. I remember saying to him one day, and this was even before going, I'm like, at what point is it enough? Like what squat number is it going to finally translate? Because we're at 600, and bitch, you can't run a stick route. Like, so what?
Yeah, the dude that's
the dude that
300 can't.
He's hiding from the strength coach. I mean, he's breaking people's ankles on the field. Like, he is destroying people. And so I noticed that early on, and anybody else that's been in athletics knows what I'm talking about. You've got your dudes that are strong in the weight room, and they stink on the field. Then you have your dudes that are drinking Red Bull, eating French fries, and skipping sets, and they're scoring touchdowns at will on the field. Like, it never made sense to me until I was able to wrap my head around, like, oh, the lifting is just, it's compressing me. Not lifting at least keeps me in that what was innate, what's back in the embryological development. You're all given this gift when you're born. Right. You have the GOATA. It's just a case of keeping it. And so it's and you're not saying don't lift. You're saying build strength inside that decompressed state to where it's transferable to the field. Well, strength is the weight's not the issue. Like the actual weight, like the object of the weight isn't necessarily the problem. It's how you're using it. Case in point, Gary's got kettlebells at the gym, but we don't use the kettlebells like you're seeing other people use kettlebells. A bar could be used good or bad. There's really only one good way. You got to flip it on its head so that it can create a pivot. When it's in a linear fashion, you're really relegated to a Henny press for any sort of, any way that it's going to give you good feedback in a GOATA sense. But because exercise science was created, and exercise science was created off the backs of cadaver science, which labeled everything, like, once again, the only system that we decided to dissect and micromanage. Cardiovascular doctors, you don't go in there and they don't go, well, the right arm vein doctor is down the hall. The left leg vein doctor is over there to the right near the bathroom. No, it's like, this is the cardiovascular system. This is how it pumps the blood. This is the rhythm, the cadence, the cycle that is ideal. There's a lot of people that are it's normal blood pressure people, but we're going to look in a corrective form to get you back towards the ideal. Well, GOATA looked in the same way, and it said, why are we chopping things up on planes of motion? Why are you dissecting tissue and calling it an isolated structure when it's, damn well it's integrated to the whole thing? You can't take your arm off and throw it over there and let it exist on its own. It's existing inside of a bigger system. So now when you take a step back and you go, okay, wait, all the systems are moving something, and they're moving that something in a cycle, in a rhythm, in a cadence, in a flow, you got to ask, what's the musculoskeletal system moving? That's number one. So it's moving pressure, your weight, which you can't see, you can't touch, but you can understand it when you see it frame by frame. It's the same thing that when you watch when you can take a snapshot of a prize fighter and he hits that dude with the right hook and they get that one frame of a shot and you see his musculoskeletal system at the face level just deform and restructure based off of that pressure. That same pressure that's coming out of that dude's hand to hit that person's face, where do you think it started? It started down at their foot and ankle on the right side. So that same amount of pressure that's breaking that face, that's unhinging that jaw, well, when you bottle it up and you put it down at the foot and the ankle, if it's not organized correctly, just like that face wasn't organized correctly as it took the hit, you're going to blow up your foot. You're going to blow up your ankle. You're going to pop your Achilles. You're going to pop your ACL. You're going to pop something. Pressure bursts pipes, right? So you have to have that overarching understanding of what is that musculoskeletal system moving, and what is the cycle? How is it working? So we have a completely different framework. Exercise science was built off cadaver science. They're going to work you on a flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, supination, pronation, rotation. They're going to work you like that. They're going to work glute. They're going to work hammy. They're going to work quad. They're going to work calf. They're going to work inner calf. They're going to work outer calf. They're going to work this part of the pec. They're going to work that part of the pec. Because these are all things that they came up with. They made them up. They chopped up with the scalpel and said, this is that. Well, it's not really that. What you should have done is you should have done National Geographic. That's what Gilly did. Sat in the bush, sat back there quietly, and just watched them move and said, let's watch Jordan. Let's watch the Karubo. Let's watch that baby crawl. Let's watch Ida Keeling. Let's just watch. Let's not tell it what to do. Let's just see what it's doing. Let's play National Geographic. Now, after you play National Geographic, then you can go to the body shop and you can take a look underneath the hood. Now we can go cross-reference the anatomy with what we've seen on slow motion. So once I've seen GOATA, I've seen WOATA, I've seen it destruct, I've seen it stay durable. I've got both of those patterns locked down. I can see them. Now when you go back and look at a foot, it all makes sense. Now when you go back and look at Achilles and a leg structure, you look at Muscles and Meridians by Philip Beach, you look at that work, you look at spinal engine, it all makes sense. Because yes, of course it is spiraled inward. Of course the Achilles is spiraled inward. The leg musculature is spiraled inward. Because when you set a bow and you spiral it out, you take the slack out, you create integrity, and boom, now it can release. So instead of going in that manner, the first movement systems were built off of cadaver science. That's why they're giving you dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, supination, pronation. You think that training all those isolated ranges is giving you a strong foot. It's not. Like, you're still WOATA.
Somebody asked if we work on shoulders. Yes, it's a head to
from head to toe to fingertips.
Holistic. And then the kid Joe, I had sent you his video this morning. His dad was on here. His dad commented, and he was like, "Yeah, Joe thought he felt like he was still GOATA." And then once we did his eval,
dude, listen, it hurts. It's everybody. Like, we all did it. I mean, come on now.
Yeah. And he was high level like 2 years ago.
If you ain't,
like, he was up
if you ain't getting better, you getting worse. Now, if you ain't staying GOATA, you going
you going one way or the other.
That's why you gotta get your walk right. You gotta get to the ground. You gotta go rest on the ground every now and again. Like, I think you get to a point where, like, you don't need to sit down and do like child rockers for 20 minutes. Like, that might be something that's early on in your routine. Once you get your Seiza back, once you get all your floor resting back, just going to rest on the floor is your groundwork now, okay? Then you start to walk. Well, you get that walk figured out. Boom, that's coding up. Then I think you do got to ask yourself, am I somebody that is going to start to work into the arena of jog, run, cut, juke, jump, throw, swing? If you're going to get there, you need to patronize the end of the template, which would be, you got to give me 2 without support, 1 with support, and 1 without support. You got to really own and dominate that end of the template, that end of the protocol when you're going to change things. If you're like a 9-to-5er, you're just, I want to go down to the end of the driveway and not have any pain. I'm really only going to go towards this walk. That's pretty much where I stop. I don't really jog. I don't do any of that. If you're like bare minimum, then all you really need is a groundwork routine that's got 6 and 4 pivot points in it, maybe a little 2 without support, or 2 with support. And then you just got to learn the walk and you got to learn the resting. And if you just kind of focus on that, and then maybe every now and again, if the back starts to bark at you, you have an answer, right? You know the hip stretch rocker, you got the bow hip stretch. You can kind of buff away that 2-hour flight. You can buff away that 6-hour car ride. Like, those things are going to happen, okay? But you know where you are. You're not going to try to run up the warp wall at the kids' gym. You're not going to try to go dunk at the gym. Now, if you're that dude and you want to go there, I love it. Go do your thing. You could be a CrossFitter. You could be an Olympic lifter. You could be going for a deadlift championships. It doesn't matter. You're still a human being. These are things after the fact. These are after the apex predator. This is the apex predator can now sit back and put the Fruit Loops in the pantry and go down to the butcher and get the block of meat. Like, it's a different world, but you're still the apex predator now doing all these, fun events that you can spend your time in. But I think the big thing you have to ask is, what are my goals? Okay, what are your goals? And I would say even that person that is maybe looking at GOATA and saying, well, this isn't for me. I do CrossFit. Oh, this isn't for me. I do jujitsu and I need the insides of my feet, or I'm a hockey goalie. I'll ask you this. Do you want to be a GOATA jujitsu practitioner or a WOATA jiu-jitsu practitioner? Do you want to be a GOATA goalie or a WOATA goalie? Take this for anything that you're doing. Do you want to be a GOATA CrossFitter, a WOATA CrossFitter, as close as you can get? Which version would you rather be? Everybody that I ask that question laughs and they answer the same way. Well, I'd rather be the GOATA. Okay, then spend your time doing GOATA and then spend your other time doing your thing, whatever it is that your thing is, right? If it's, for me, it was trying to hit the flat route, trying to hit the post, trying to play quarterback. For somebody else, it might be rock climbing, right? For some other person, it might be ice skating or powerlifting. But no matter what, the GOATA version of you is the better version of whatever it is that thing is that you want to do, even if it is rooted in reverse movement.
The soccer mom GOATA is going to be better than just the soccer mom. So they got, we only got about 5 minutes left, but somebody asked about any recode routine after ACL. Yes. So we have everything. If you inbox me, I can kind of run you through everything. You could go to GOATAmovement.com. If you can afford a GOATA coach, get your GOATA coach. If you can't, they got Recode 225, which we have put recode regimens in there. So you do have knee pain, hip pain, back pain, everything. They got a corrective routine section in Recode 225 now. It's a little bit easier financially.
Recode 225, it's got a where to start tab. So it's going to give you an understanding of, like, here's how you do groundwork, here's how you do standing work, here's how you use support. So you're going to know where to start. You're going to know the general sort of cues around all the exercises. Then it's got corrective.
It's all on GOATAmovement.com too. When you're looking for it, you don't have to go to Recode 225 unless you already had a Recode 225 membership. So, right now. But when you go to plans and pricing, it'll take, you could go to
weekly workout, which Gary curates. It's going to have a little mixture of 6 pivot points to 1. It's going to have a warm up. It's going to be, well organized. You'll be able to follow along. It's got an all videos tab, so you can just look at all the videos organized from, lower body, upper body. You can kind of pick and choose. It allows you to kind of pick if you want to. And then it's got the corrective routines: hip pain, knee pain, back pain. It's got a shoulder series in there. It's got lifestyle and recode tips. Then there's a whole education section, which is going to give you a further explanation in, hey, what is the bow? What is the corner? What's the release and the reset? What's head control? What's a pressure wave? What's lifting? What's lifting versus locomotion? So you get a much firmer understanding. Early Recode 225 was really just a weekly workout. Now we've expanded it to kind of truly be something that you can eventually recode yourself, without needing the sort of one-on-one. But I think that it would take longer. I think that you should start with a coach. You should start with at least an assessment in a starting routine where you can go slow and then graduate to Recode 225. That'd be the best way. The other thing that we have new, and this is all fresh from this past year. So like I said, we had to reorganize and reevaluate the education. Outside of maybe 1 or 2 videos, inside GOATA Institute right now, it's a completely new education than coaches were given in 2019, 2020, and 2021. So we fully revamped all of that. And any previous coaches that are not in the Institute but are plugged into the app, reach out to us so that we can get you into the Institute so you can be caught up. But the education is now more feasible, it's more affordable, and it's more time management feasible than it's ever been. Meaning you can work through these videos within 2 to 5 weeks. And because they're ordered and because we've had so many frequently asked questions, people are getting the like aha moments much quicker than before, much quicker than when Gary and I first started, right? We're answering those questions quickly. We're answering them in an organized manner. We're providing PDFs to help you kind of sit down, read it, be able to read it, be able to see it, be able to go through. The whole goal is for you to go through each video twice. So there's 40 plus videos and PDFs going through the Institute. You'll go through each video twice, and then boom, you're emailed your certificate. When you sign up with the Institute, you're getting the app. So you're going to get 3 months of the Institute, 3 months of the app, plenty of time to get your certificate emailed to you, watch all your videos. And I want you to feel like within 2 to 5 weeks, you could confidently walk over to someone and be like, hey, I can help you. I can start to get you on that journey. And the goal is simple for a coach. Remember, we're just trying to assess and correct GOATA, the global laws. Those are simple, right? Once you start to watch the tape, we take you in order. You'll have your aha moment. You'll be like, okay, I got y'all. I see what you're saying here. Then you're going to take them from 6 pivot points to 1. And inside the GOATA app, we already have built out regimens for you. So it's a case where if you feel like, man, I don't really know where to start, just start them on the intro to groundwork. Just start them on the landing error intro regimen. Just start them on the leaving error. Be there to guide them. Be there to sort of host this sort of new application of movement into their nervous system. And that's what our GOATA coaches are asked to do. So I think we've made it much cleaner and much simpler for the coach we want you to affect change in your community. I don't need you to wait 6 months to affect change. I need you to affect it now. You want to affect it now. This isn't a 2-year process. We want to get you guys in. We want to get the questions answered. We want to simplify the approach. We want you to be able to affect change in your community. So the big things right now are Recode 225 is fully revamped. The GOATA Institute is fully revamped. So if you're a coach and you want to teach this, you want to go to the Institute. If you're an athlete and you want to start to implement this into your training, you want to go to Recode 225. Some people go into both arenas. We have an affiliate program, Gary. I don't know if you want to end with that. The affiliate program is being built out.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of touch on that. So all of the GOATA coaches that get into Recode 225, well, any GOATA coaches have the option now, as long as they're in the, they in their renewal process or they're inside of their first 3 months or whatever, they can buy Recode 225 at a lifetime price of $4.99, and then that gives them we just had the affiliate program built into Recode 225. So anyone who has done that, they'll be getting their affiliate link to where they could make a QR code or something like that. And then for any of the athletes out there that we've been dealing with, some of the pro guys are going to get involved with it. But we're going to do on a collegiate and high school level, we're going to do some NIL deals with some of these guys where they could take and they could put it up on their pages and make 30% of the sale, and it'll be based around the NIL. And then we'll also have, the coaches that they'll be able to make that 30% through the affiliate program. So all of that's set up. It's all planned to launch. It's all ready to go. We got one little thing that we're waiting on with the website, and that'll be done. And then we got the new coaches page, and all of that stuff will be up and running in the beginning of January. So
that's what we've been doing this past year.
Kind of brand new. Yeah,
that's really what we've been doing.
Yeah, we did a lot. We put a lot in. We had done so much. I had actually stopped doing training sessions the last year in the gym to kind of work on the business side of it and all. So that's back up though. We're back doing. I got the in-house training going again. We're starting to pick up. We're doing the off-season stuff.
This call,
I'll probably
this call we want to make. So we weren't really as present on Instagram as we have been in the past. Like I said, there's been changes behind the scenes, but we really wanted to bring, like I said, a more feasible program from a learning standpoint, a logical learning standpoint. Now there's so much information out there and you're being pulled in different directions, and there's a lot of it that's not good, and that's unfortunate, but I think that's just part of the internet. But now, we have a place for the education. We have a place for the training, and now it's easier, it's more accessible to everybody. That's what we've been building, but we also want to be out there to be able to answer questions and to be in the front of it and give these longer form discussions where you can take something from it and you can start to, put it into your day-to-day. So we're going to be doing this, every Friday at this time is going to be the standing date for the Gary and Rick show, I guess.
Yeah. And then we're gonna have the podcast back up and running and all of that stuff too. But yeah, somebody has a few months already.